The phone rang. Not the quiet, polite chirp of a personal cell. This was the kind of ring that shook the walls in your bones. A cold, electric wail in the 911 call center, built to rip people out of silence and sleep. And it did. Dispatcher Claire Dawson's fingers flew across the keyboard before the first ring ended. 911, what's your emergency? Static. Then a faint breath. Muffled. Panic hung in it. Hello? Claire's voice tightened. The professional calm clashing against an instinct that whispered something was wrong. This is emergency services. I can hear you. Please speak. Claire? She froze. The headset gripped her ears like a vice, but the voice inside pierced straight through the years, deeper than she remembered. Cracked. Tired. Danny? Her screen still showed unknown number. No address, no triangulation. I don't have time, listen to me, Danny said, whispering fast. I'm pinned in a liquor store off 8 Mile and Harper, East Side. 2 suspects, armed, maybe 3. Took a civilian, kid. I'm bleeding. They don't know I hit the panic button on my radio. You're the only one I could get through to. Claire's heart crashed against her ribs. Danny, are you? Don't use my name. Not on this line. Just listen. A pause. Claire, I don't think I make it out of this. Her screen finally flickered. VoIP relay. Location trace pending. Stop, he added. Harsher this time. Do not send the team in yet. They'll kill the hostage. They're already paranoid. I need you to stall dispatch. Talk me through this, like we used to. Her hands shook. Claire Dawson, calm under pressure, voice of the city's emergencies, was suddenly 12 years old again, hiding behind the sofa while her big brother punched holes in drywall after their mother OD'd on Christmas Eve. Where are you hit? Left shoulder, through and through, arms numb. She exhaled. It meant he was conscious. For now. Claire swiveled to the left, fingers typing a silent note into the private dispatcher channel. Unit 521, Officer Daniel Dawson, requesting covert support. Hostage in active threat. Do not engage. Await confirmation. The supervisor's light blinked red. She ignored it. Can you move? She asked. No, Danny said. They stashed me behind the counter. Thought I was dead. Store clerk took one in the leg. He's still breathing. I've got 1 gun with a single mag. 2 left in the chamber. No vest, no backup. She blinked fast, trying to absorb the surge of adrenaline and fear boiling under her skin. You are going to stay on this line, you hear me? She said. I need everything. Layout, voices, anything they say. There was a pause. Then Danny whispered, Thought you hated me. Claire's throat tightened. Right now, I hate that you're the only call on this line. He let out the ghost of a chuckle. Still sharp. A loud crash echoed through his end. Then a yell, a new voice. Shut the hell up! You move again, I will blow your face off! Claire instinctively lowered the volume. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She opened a second channel, quietly looping in SWAT command. Her brother was a cop. But more than that, he was the last family she had, and the last person she wanted to hear from, after what happened 5 years ago. Talk to me, Claire, Danny hissed when the noise quieted again. You still there? I am, she said. Tell me who you see. There was a shuffle, then a strained whisper. One guy, skinny, Caucasian, military posture, keeps adjusting his grip, probably ex-service, carrying an M4. Another guy in a skull mask, heavier, shotgun, both twitchy. Think this was a robbery gone wrong. Any sign of the hostage? Yeah, boy, maybe 10 years old, hiding under a freezer unit, shaking bad. She pressed her lips together. Every second mattered. I'm putting you on a closed relay to tactical, she said. They're listening, but they won't move until I say. You're in control, Danny. God help us. Claire glanced across the center. The other dispatchers worked in silence, unaware that one of their own had just been pulled into a living nightmare. Her supervisor approached. Claire, what is this? You blocked the auto alert. She pulled off one earpiece and whispered, Hostage situation. My brother's in there. His eyes widened. You need to recuse. No, she snapped, louder than she meant. I'm the only one he'll talk to, the only one keeping him from bleeding out or getting that kid killed. The supervisor hesitated, then nodded. 2 minutes. Make it count. She turned back, heart racing. Danny, she said, voice low. Can you get to the kid? I don't know. I'm losing blood fast. My arm's dead weight. A beat. Then, you remember that summer you made me teach you how to shoot left-handed? She smiled despite herself. Yeah. You said I would never need it. I was wrong. Another loud noise, metallic, yelling again, then a whisper. Claire, they're moving. They found the freezer. They've got the kid. The line exploded with static. Claire yanked her headset off. Danny? Danny? The signal was gone, just as her location trace finally locked. Confirmed. EZ, Stop Liquor, 1834 Harper Ave. Her supervisor looked over her shoulder. What's your call? Claire's lips parted, eyes still on the flickering screen. A long silence. Then she whispered, We go in. And somewhere across the city, sirens screamed to life. The EZ Stop Liquor store loomed like a forgotten relic, boxed between a shuttered barber shop and an abandoned check-cashing place. Red and blue lights splashed across its cracked windows, painting the street in chaos. SWAT trucks had boxed in the perimeter, and snipers perched on neighboring rooftops, breaths held, sights locked. Inside the dispatch center, Claire Dawson stood motionless, headset in hand, screen still blinking with the frozen trace. Confirmed. Officer Daniel Dawson. Last signal received 21:43:17. She should have been relieved, but the silence on the line was deafening. Claire. Her supervisor, Tom Resnick, handed her a cup of water she did not ask for. We need the green light for breach. She did not take the water. He said they'd kill the hostage if anyone came near, Claire said, eyes unfocused. If they think we're coming. Resnick's voice lowered. We have no visual, no audio. That line went dead 4 minutes ago. Danny could be unconscious, or worse. The thought pressed like a fist against her chest. Claire had spoken to the dead before, when callers stopped breathing mid-sentence, when screams were cut off by a final shot. But this was different. This was her brother. And the last time they had spoken, before tonight, she had told him she never wanted to hear his voice again. Give us something, SWAT command barked through the control channel. Do we go or not? Claire stared at the screen, then slowly put the headset back on, flipping to an open citywide relay. Unit 521, if you're alive, I need a signal. Anything. Tap, breathe, make noise. Nothing. Then, faint. One long scratch. A pause. 2 short ones. She closed her eyes. Morse, she murmured. He's tapping Morse. Resnick leaned in. What's it mean? Claire translated as it came. W-A-I-T. She bolted upright. He's alive. He says wait. SWAT cursed in her ear. Ma'am, if your officer is compromised, this could be misdirection. I know my brother's code, she snapped. He used to write it on the back of cereal boxes when he was 12. That's him. He's buying us time. Resnick glanced between her and the command line. You have 5 minutes. Then they go. Meanwhile, inside the liquor store, the air was thick with sweat, gunpowder, and fear. Officer Daniel Dawson lay flat behind the counter, blood still leaking from his shoulder, pooling beneath him. The kid, maybe 9, maybe 10, was now on the floor just feet away, duct tape stretched tight across his mouth, knees drawn to his chest. The leader, the one with the skull mask, barked at the others. "We move in 10. If no one's come by then, we bounce. Take the kid as insurance." Danny's body screamed in protest, but his mind stayed sharp. His phone had gone dark, but the tap code had worked. Claire had heard him. He knew it. He just had to keep them from realizing he was alive. He shifted slightly, pressing a wine cork he had snagged earlier against the shelf in a rhythmic tap. Wait. 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 They would come. But not yet. His vision blurred. Somewhere in the static of his thoughts, he heard his sister's voice. Not the calm, trained dispatcher, but the girl who sat with him on their front porch after their father left, holding his scraped hand and whispering, "You and me, Dan. Always." He blinked it away. That had been a long time ago. Back at the center, Claire pulled up Danny's file. She stared at the disciplinary record, still logged in red. Suspension. Internal investigation pending. Incident 814. That had been the beginning of their silence. Danny had been called to a domestic disturbance. The man was violent, unpredictable. Danny made the call to fire. The suspect died. Turned out the man was unarmed. The media had spun it as another case of excessive force. Claire had been the one who took the original 911 call from the suspect's terrified wife. She never told Danny, until weeks later, when the story broke and their lives detonated. "You chose the job over me," he'd said. "No," she had replied. "I chose the truth." She had never spoken to him again. Until tonight. Now, her screen blinked. SWAT ready. Entry in 90 seconds. Claire jumped back into the relay. "Danny, if you can hear me, confirm safety of hostage. Tap once." Nothing. Then, one single tap. Her heart soared. Another tap. Then a pause. Then again. "Oh." Resnick frowned. "What's that mean?" Claire's eyes widened. "No, the hostage isn't safe." Her voice cracked. "They're moving him. They're going to take the kid with them. He's warning us." She stood. "We have to breach. Now." At the liquor store, Danny gathered the last of his strength. His eyes locked on the boys, wide and terrified. Danny mouthed, "It's okay." Then he slid his backup pistol across the floor, inch by inch, until it was hidden behind a fallen mop bucket just outside the boy's reach. It was a gamble, but it might be the only thing that saved him. "Breach! Go! Go!" The call echoed through the SWAT channel. Claire pressed both palms to the console, her breath caught. The screen switched to a live feed from the officer cam. Doors shattered, boots thundered, flashbangs exploded, smoke burst through broken glass. Claire's heart pounded as the scene unfolded in chaotic fragments, screams, movement, shouting. Then, a sniper's voice cut through. "Shoot her down! 2 suspects fleeing rear! Kid secured!" More shouting. "Got a 3rd body! Unknown status! Officer down!" Claire gripped the console. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "Is he alive?" A pause, then static, and finally, "We've got a pulse." "Officer Dawson is alive. Repeat, alive." Claire collapsed back into her chair, but even as relief washed over her in waves, a voice echoed in her mind, the voice from years ago in a broken living room. "You chose the job over me." And she wondered, was it still true? The hallway outside room 214 smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Claire had been standing there for 23 minutes, staring at the narrow window in the hospital room door. Inside, Daniel Dawson lay unconscious. his left arm in a sling, an IV drip running into his good arm. His chest rose and fell in slow, steady rhythms. He was alive. But Claire's stomach still churned. It wasn't just relief. It was guilt. Thick, familiar guilt. And something heavier still. Uncertainty. She had saved him, yes. But the line between duty and personal desperation had blurred in real time, and now the consequences were catching up. Claire Dawson? She turned. A woman in a black blazer, hair tied tight, badge flashing at her hip, approached with practiced steps. Agent Kira Sullivan, Internal Affairs, we need to speak. Claire followed without a word. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, which at 3:30 a.m. was occupied by one sleepy janitor and the smell of old fries. Agent Sullivan pulled out a recorder. This is an informal debrief, for now. Claire nodded, arms crossed. You blocked standard auto alerts, rewrote dispatch logs, took direct control of an emergency relay, and made the final call to breach without SWAT command approval. Claire's jaw clenched. Because there was a child in danger, and because the responding officer was bleeding out. Because he was your brother. Claire did not answer. Sullivan leaned forward. This is not me accusing you. Not yet. This is me trying to understand if what you did tonight was a reckless act of desperation, or if you had information no one else did. Claire looked her in the eye. He tapped Morse. I recognized the pattern. I translated it. The intel saved a child's life. It saved his life. The breach was timed to that intel. Nothing reckless about it. And the emotional conflict? Claire's eyes narrowed. That is none of your damn business. Sullivan exhaled. Actually, it is, because you have now placed this entire department under review, including your role, especially your role. She clicked off the recorder and stood. We'll be in touch. Soon. Claire watched her leave, then folded her hands over her face. She had told herself she could handle it, that professionalism and personal pain could coexist, that she could ride the line and still do her job. But now the line was gone. An hour later, Daniel Dawson opened his eyes. The world was hazy. A monitor beeped nearby. His shoulder pulsed with fire, and his mouth tasted like cotton and blood. But the first thing he saw, sitting quietly in a chair near the window, was Claire. She stood slowly when she saw him awake. Hey. He blinked a few times. You look older. She smirked. You look like you lost a fight with a freezer aisle. Silence stretched between them. 5 years of it. Claire stepped closer. They say you're lucky. The bullet missed everything major. You'll recover. Danny nodded faintly. The kid? Safe. Minor bruising. Scared, but he's talking now. Danny turned his head, eyes locking with hers. You came for me. She hesitated, then sat down at the foot of his bed. You called me. He gave a small, bitter laugh. I did not even know it would go to you. It was a blind shot. Last number I remembered. I figured the universe owed me one. Claire stared at the floor. You're not the only one under review. IA's breathing down my neck. Because of me? No, she said. Because of the choice I made. He looked at her for a long time. Would you make it again? Claire did not answer. She just stood. Get some rest. We're not done yet. She turned to go. His voice stopped her. Claire. She looked back. I never meant to make you choose back then. Between the truth and me. Her voice cracked. You didn't. You made the choice for me. Then she was gone. Later that morning, Claire sat in a debriefing room reviewing the surveillance footage recovered from the liquor store's hard drive. The feed was grainy, but clear enough. 3 suspects. 2 were visible in masks, armed. The third was blurred, never looked up at the camera, but the one moment that froze her blood cold was a frame where the third figure leaned over Danny just after he had been shot. They whispered something, then reached into Danny's vest pocket, pulled something out, a folded piece of paper, and tucked it into their own. Claire zoomed in. It was not random. It was precise, purposeful. She cross-checked the incident report from Danny's last suspension. The date, August 14th. The man he shot that day had connections to a fringe anti-police activist group. Rumors swirled about retaliation, but nothing was ever proven. Until now? Claire's phone buzzed. It was a text from a restricted number. You should have let him die. Now the real game begins. Her skin went cold. She looked at the footage again. The third suspect was not some panicked kid. They had a plan, and Danny had something they wanted. Claire walked back into the hospital and found her brother staring blankly at the TV mounted on the wall, still dressed in a blood-stained hospital gown. I need to ask you something, she said, voice tight. Danny looked at her. Back in that store, she continued, someone took something off you. A paper. What was it? His eyes darkened. He reached under the thin hospital blanket and slowly pulled a second copy of the same paper from the lining of his boot. He handed it to her. Claire unfolded it. A list of names. 4 of them were crossed out. 2 remained. She recognized one, and it was hers. She looked up at him, heart pounding. What is this? Danny's voice was quiet. People who testified against the man I shot 5 years ago. They think we buried them. Now they're digging them back up. Claire felt the blood drain from her face. I think they're going to finish what they started. Claire sat alone in her apartment, a single lamp casting shadows across the hardwood floor. The list of names was spread on the coffee table, corners curling under the weight of everything it implied. 6 names, 4 crossed out. Hers still clean, untouched, for now. The last name had no mark at all. Michael Trevors. She remembered it now. A former EMT. He had responded to the domestic disturbance call 5 years ago, arrived seconds after Danny fired the fatal shot. He had testified in the internal inquiry, confirming the scene was chaotic, that Danny had shouted warnings, but that the suspect hadn't been armed. Claire hadn't known his name until now. She tapped into the dispatcher database and typed, Trevors, Michael, current residence. It came up instantly. Then she hesitated. Going to him would mean reopening wounds that had never fully closed. But if someone was killing these people one by one, she had no choice. At Mercy Hill Hospital, Danny lay awake under the dim hospital lights, staring at the ceiling like it held answers. His arm throbbed. His mind was worse. The names on that list haunted him. Each one had been a brick in the wall that built his shame. The last 5 years had been a slow-motion punishment, reassignment, media hate, broken friendships. But the worst part had always been Claire. He had told himself he made the right call that day, that the man had reached for something, that time was too short to gamble. But deep down, he knew. He had pulled the trigger too fast. He had been scared. And now someone was turning his worst moment into a weapon, killing the people who had stood on the side of truth. He pulled out his phone. The screen was cracked but functional. He called Claire. She answered on the second ring. Yeah? You okay? He asked. No, she said. I'm on my way to talk to the last person on the list. Trevors. He's in Grandview, about 30 minutes east. Danny sat up too fast, groaning. You should not go alone. Do I have a choice? He hated that he had no answer. Be careful, he said. A beat. Then she added, Danny, We're not done talking about that day. But right now, I need to focus. He swallowed. I'll be here. She hung up. Claire reached Grandview just after noon. A quiet suburb, all picket fences and sprinkler systems. Trevor's lived in a one-story house with a sagging roof and a porch swing that creaked in the wind. He answered the door cautiously. Older now, face heavier, beard flecked with gray. "Claire Dawson?" he asked, confused. "From dispatch?" She nodded. "Can I come in?" He hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the living room was cluttered with toys, a baby carrier, and framed photos. The scent of old coffee and baby powder hung in the air. Travers sat on the edge of the sofa. "What is this about?" Claire held up the paper. He stared, then cursed under his breath. "So it's real." "You knew?" "I suspected," he said. "Two of the people on that list died last year, supposed car accidents, but both had filed for new ID protection before it happened. I thought it was coincidence. Now?" Claire leaned forward. "Who would want us dead?" Travers sighed. "That man Danny shot, Gabriel Knox. He wasn't just some abusive husband. He had ties, underground activist groups, a militia circle based in upstate Michigan, violent, paranoid. They believe the government's rotten, and anyone who helps expose one of their own is part of the problem." Claire rubbed her forehead. "So they're cleaning house." "I think," Trevor said quietly, "they're sending a message. That justice has a cost." Suddenly, a noise outside. Claire's instincts flared. "Do you have a back door?" "Yes. Why?" "Grab your family and go. Now." She was on her feet, hand on her hip, but she had no weapon. Through the window, she saw a figure in a hoodie step onto the porch, something metallic glinting under his jacket. Claire yanked Travers behind her just as the window shattered. Gunfire ripped through the air. Glass exploded. Claire threw herself onto the floor, dragging Travers with her as a bullet tore through the couch cushion. She reached for a ceramic lamp and hurled it at the window. It missed but gave her time to pull Travers toward the hallway. A second shot hit the wall an inch from her head. Then, tires squealed. The figure outside sprinted across the lawn and vanished into a black SUV, which sped off before she could even reach the porch. She stood in the doorway, heart racing. Neighbors were emerging now, confused and frightened. Sirens howled in the distance. Claire's hands trembled. This was no longer a warning. It was war. Back at the hospital, Danny swung his legs off the bed and grunted through the pain. His nurse rushed in. "What are you doing?" "You're not cleared to stand." He waved her off. "Where's my clothes?" "You lost most of your gear in the field." "My wallet," he said. "My badge." She hesitated. He looked her in the eye. "I need to find my sister." Claire stood with Travers on the lawn as police took statements and crime scene tape was pulled around the house. "You need to disappear," she told him. "New name, new city." Travers nodded, shaking. "What about you?" Claire stared at the bullet hole in the wall. "I think I just joined the list." Her phone buzzed. It was a photo. A picture of her apartment door, smeared in red paint. One word. Liar. Her chest tightened. She looked up at the sky, the clouds churning. She had thought the past was buried, but someone was digging it up with blood. Danny's boots echoed through the parking garage of Mercy Hill Hospital. He moved slower than he wanted to, each step a reminder that his body had not caught up to his will. But he had his badge, his sidearm, and a purpose now. Claire had not answered her phone in over an hour. Something was wrong. He slid into the first department-issued SUV he found and hit the lights. As he pulled onto the freeway, muscle memory took over. For the first time in 5 years, he felt alive, not numb, not suspended in shame, but needed. Moving. He remembered what Claire had said. Trevor's in Grandview, and the list, the names, the smear of red paint across her door. They were both targets now. But they were also the last ones left. Claire met him in an empty diner just off Route 60. She looked pale but composed, a bandage across her temple from a stray piece of flying glass. Danny slid into the booth across from her and took a long look. "You okay?" She nodded. "I think they expected to kill Travers and scare me off." "You still think that'll work?" Her eyes were sharp. "I called you, didn't I?" For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Danny laid out the old folded map he had kept tucked in his jacket since the incident, a warehouse blueprint from his brief undercover stint 2 years ago when he'd infiltrated a fringe militia group under the name Nick Jensen. "You think this is connected?" Claire asked. "I know it is. That group disbanded officially, but we both know what officially means." Claire studied the map. "North Commerce, near the train yard. Empty for years." Danny tapped a small red circle drawn on the blueprint. "That's where they met. If anyone's reviving Knox's network, that's the place to look." Claire sat back. "Then we go. Together." He raised an eyebrow. "Really?" She shrugged. "I'm already suspended. Might as well earn it." The warehouse sat like a sleeping monster, rusted and abandoned, hemmed in by weeds and tagged walls. Danny parked half a block away, headlights off. They moved quietly, Danny leading, Claire watching the flanks. As they reached the rear door, Danny pointed to a scratched symbol on the lock, a crude drawing of an open eye. He frowned. "They've been here. Recently." He picked the lock with ease, and they slipped inside. The interior was a maze of crates and dust-covered machines, but near the center, a makeshift table sat beneath a dangling light bulb. Photos were scattered across the table, surveillance shots of Claire, Danny, Travers, the boy from the liquor store. Each one labeled, time-stamped. Claire's stomach turned. Then she froze. One photo showed her and her ex-supervisor, Tom Resnick, speaking in the dispatch center. It had been taken from inside the building. Danny cursed. "They've got someone inside." Claire picked up another photo. Danny, in uniform, walking through a gas station. "And they've had eyes on you for weeks." A noise behind them. Footsteps. Claire drew her weapon first. Danny, a second later. A flashlight beam lit the corner, then a voice followed. "Put it down, both of you." Claire lowered her gun an inch. "Tom?" Tom Resnick stepped into the light, unarmed, palms raised, but his eyes were not surprised, not angry, just resigned. Danny did not lower his weapon. "You were the leak." Tom sighed. "I was the survivor. There's a difference." Claire's jaw clenched. "You sold us out." "No," Tom said, stepping closer. "I tried to end it. 5 years ago, I warned Danny the group was watching Knox, that he needed to back off, but he didn't listen." Danny's voice was ice. "Because Knox beat his wife bloody and pulled a weapon in a child's bedroom." Tom nodded. "And I believed you. I still do. But this wasn't just about one arrest. Knox was a martyr to them. And anyone who touched that case, judge, witness, cop, was marked." Claire shook her head. "You were supposed to protect us." Tom's voice hardened. "I tried. For 5 years, I fed them just enough to keep them quiet. But then you two had to go stirring things up again." Danny stepped forward. "You're under arrest." But Tom smiled, slowly. "No, I'm not." Behind them, a click. Claire turned too late. A masked figure stepped from the shadows, gun raised. Danny lunged, but the figure fired. Claire screamed. Danny dropped, hard, shoulder first onto the concrete. Blood spread beneath him. Claire raised her weapon, fired, once, twice, and the masked figure dropped. Dead. She rushed to Danny's side. No, 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 stay with me. His breath was shallow. Claire, do not talk. You're not dying today. He coughed. You came back for me. She pressed her hands to his side, trying to stop the bleeding. You're my brother. He smiled faintly, then passed out. Behind her, Tom was gone. Claire screamed for help. No one answered. Danny Dawson was bleeding out in the back seat of a stolen SUV. Claire's foot crushed the gas pedal as the road blurred beneath her tires. With one hand pressed against his wound and the other white-knuckling the steering wheel, she kept whispering to him. Stay with me. You've been through worse. You walked off worse, remember? But he was barely conscious now. Red lights passed like ghosts. Horns blared. Somewhere in the distance a storm rolled in. The hospital was still 12 minutes out. And they might not have 12 minutes. She finally skidded to the ER entrance. Nurses rushed toward her. Claire jumped out, flinging the door open. Officer down! Gunshot wound left side. No time, he's losing pressure. Danny was wheeled away, his body limp, lips pale. Claire stood in the rain, drenched, panting. And then she turned, eyes burning. She had a traitor to find. Tom Resnick's apartment was above a shuttered pawn shop on the east side, a building Claire had only visited once, years ago, before things had fallen apart between her and Danny. It was a quiet place back then. Now, it smelled like mold and treachery. She picked the lock with surprising ease. The door creaked open into a room filled with boxes, paper, and gear. Surveillance equipment, burner phones, maps. A corkboard dominated the far wall. Tacked to it were printed photos, her face, Danny's badge, the boy from the hostage scene, Trevor's, and at the center, the same symbol from the warehouse door, the crude open eye. She read the papers scattered across the desk, flipping through them, her soaked hair dripping onto the pages. One memo was marked, Operation Clearance, 0821, Civic Building, Detroit. Her pulse spiked. The Civic Building. The city's administrative core. Public records. City council. Courts. Media scheduled to cover a mayoral debate. Hundreds of people. The note underneath chilled her blood. Make the city feel it. Take back control. Let them watch it fall. A blueprint of the ventilation system was circled. Gas. Not just a bomb. A chemical weapon. A domestic terror attack. Claire sat in the dark, breathing hard, heart galloping in her chest. All the dots connected now. Knox had not just been an abuser, he had been a recruiter, a martyr for extremists who believed the state was the enemy. They had been planning something all along. His death wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And Danny's shooting, Claire's testimony, it had disrupted everything. That was why the group had been hunting witnesses, to cover their tracks. But it was more than vengeance. They were going to punish the entire city. Claire called the FBI task force, breath tight. This is Claire Dawson, formerly of Detroit Dispatch. I need to speak to Special Agent Kira Sullivan. Now. The agent answered on the second ring. Dawson? You're not cleared for— Listen to me, Claire said, voice sharp. There is an imminent attack planned for August 21st. Civic Building, Detroit. They're going to release gas through the vents. I have the proof. Blueprints, names, timelines. Silence. Then Sullivan's voice hardened. Where did you get this? From Tom Resnick. He's the leak. He was feeding intel to the militia that followed Gabriel Knox. They've gone underground, and they're about to strike. Another pause. Where are you now? Claire looked around the dingy apartment. Someplace I shouldn't be. I'll send coordinates and everything I found. You understand, Sullivan said. If this is real, you just crossed a federal line. Claire exhaled. Yeah, I crossed it the second I picked up my brother's call. An hour later, Claire sat in the ICU waiting room. Danny was in surgery. The doctor had not sugarcoated it. The bullet had nicked his liver and punctured a lung. If he made it through the night, it would be a miracle. Claire leaned forward, eyes heavy, head spinning with exhaustion and fury. She had saved dozens of lives in her career, but none had ever felt this personal. A nurse tapped her shoulder. There's a call for you. Claire took it. It was Agent Sullivan. We swept the Civic building, she said. Your intel checked out. They were already installing the delivery system. If you hadn't acted... Claire closed her eyes. What about Resnick? Gone. We think he fled the city, but not for long. Claire nodded. I'll send everything else I have. One more thing, Sullivan said. You're not cleared to operate, Claire. You've broken a dozen protocols. You're officially suspended from all city roles pending further review. Claire opened her eyes. Then I'm not part of the city anymore. I'm part of the cleanup. Sullivan exhaled. Don't do anything stupid. Claire hung up. Then she stood. Her brother had almost died. People had been marked for execution. A domestic terror cell was still operating in her city, and the people who were supposed to protect her had failed. No more waiting. She looked back once at the surgery door. Then she walked out into the rain. She had work to do. The storm broke just after midnight. Claire Dawson crouched behind an abandoned delivery truck 2 blocks from the Jefferson City garage, one of the last civic buildings not yet swept by federal teams. The location had come from a burner phone Danny had confiscated before surgery, a number that kept receiving cryptic texts from Resnick. Midnight. Final message. They will listen now. She knew what that meant. If the civic building was the first strike, this was the encore, meant to finish the job and ignite the fire they had been building toward. Claire checked her weapon, a borrowed Glock from one of Danny's old lockers, and adjusted the earpiece in her ear. SWAT and the FBI were en route, but traffic delays and poor weather had slowed response. She was the first on scene, and if this went south, maybe the only one. She scanned the shadows. Movement. 2 figures in dark coats slipped through a side door, carrying a steel case. Claire exhaled slowly, then moved. Inside, the garage was mostly dark. A few flickering overhead bulbs buzzed as rain hammered the roof. Rows of empty municipal vehicles sat in eerie silence. Claire followed at a distance, ducking behind a row of fleet sedans until the men stopped at a concrete pillar near the center of the floor. One of them crouched and opened the case. Claire could just barely make out the cylinder inside, a gas dispersal unit. Again. They were going to release it through the city's underground tunnel system, and this time, no list, no message, just casualties. Drop it! Claire stepped out from behind the vehicle, weapon raised. Both men turned. The first dropped the case, the second drew a pistol, fast, and fired. Claire dove, the shot tearing into the metal door behind her. She rolled and fired back, hitting the man in the leg. He collapsed with a scream. The first man ran. Claire chased him through the dark, past a row of garbage bins and service doors. They burst out into the alley, where lightning cracked overhead. The man tripped. She closed in, gun drawn. Turn around! Slowly the man raised his hands and turned. It was Tom Resnick, soaked, shaking, and unarmed. Claire stared at him. I warned you, he said, voice ragged. You poked a nest that was staying quiet. You nearly killed a building full of people. I saved people too, he spat. For years. I fed them false leads. I stalled attacks. But every time I tried to step away, they threatened my daughter. You think this was a choice? You think I wanted this? Claire's breath caught. Then why now? He looked down. Because they were going to do it with or without me. He reached into his coat slowly. Claire flinched, weapon twitching. He stopped. Just the phone. She nodded once. He tossed it to her feet. I can give you their servers, their accounts, every name. Just don't let them pin this all on me. I tried. Claire lowered her weapon a few inches, and then another voice rang out behind her. I would not. Claire turned, gun still up. Danny, bruised, pale, arm in a sling, but standing. He leaned against the garage wall, his eyes locked on Resnick. He's lying. Again. Claire froze. Danny limped closer, each step pained. The only reason you're not dead, he told Resnick, is because she still has something I lost years ago. He turned to Claire. Mercy. Tom slowly dropped to his knees, hands behind his head. I'm done, he whispered. Claire nodded once, then looked at Danny. You're supposed to be in recovery. Danny smiled faintly. You're terrible at follow-up calls. The feds arrived minutes later. Claire gave them everything. The case, the server leads, Resnick. And then, for the first time in weeks, she stepped away. She and Danny sat on the curb outside the garage, silent for a long while, soaked to the bone. You remember what Mom used to say? Danny asked finally. Claire tilted her head. Which part? The part about how storms always clean the air. She looked up at the sky. The clouds had started to break. The first stars flickered above. I think she just said that to make us feel better about leaks in the roof, Claire said. Danny laughed softly, wincing. Probably. She turned toward him. You made a bad call back then, Danny, but you tried to make it right, even when it cost you everything. He met her eyes. And you never stopped doing what was right, even when it meant turning against me. She took a long breath. I didn't want to choose the job over you. I know. A pause. Then Claire stood, brushing off her jacket. So what now? Danny smiled. We rebuild. Or at least, try. She helped him to his feet. As they walked together toward the flashing lights in the distance, she felt something shift. Not the world, not the city, but something deeper. Forgiveness. Not perfect, but earned.